A man of shadow walked the land, with iron heart and bloodied hand. He carved his will through fear and flame. No love, no truth, no sacred name. He mocked the gods, denied the light, fed his hunger in the night. Gold and power his only creed, a soul long lost to endless greed. But the veil grows thin for all who breathe. No king nor tyrant death will leave. Through the fires below he falls, past the veil of ancient halls, judged by eyes that never sleep, where the roots of silence weep. Burn the sin from bone and breath, cleanse the rod of mortal death. In the flames his spirit cries to be broken, to arise. The immortals stood in circle wide, with stars of truth they pierced his pride. No lie could live, no mask remain. They saw his life, his trail of pain. You chose the path of ash and chain. You fed on sorrow, dealt in pain. Now walk the road your deeds have sown, and reap the dark that you have grown. No plea was heard, no bargain made. Into the depths his soul was laid. Below he falls, past the gate of iron walls. Screams of ages fill the air. All the lost are burning there. Every lie and every scar, forged again in furnace dark. In the flames his spirit cries to be broken, to time dissolved in endless night. Pain became a twisted light. In the torment something turned. In the fire a truth was burned. He saw the faces, felt their grief, every wound beyond belief. Not as master, not as king, but the cause of suffering. Out, burn it clean, all the hate he's ever been. Ash to ash, the self must die. Only truth can purify. From the embers, something new, a silent spark of deeper view. No more hunger, no more throne, just the weight of what he's sown. The fire ceased, the dark grew still, a quiet voice beyond his will. The gods returned their gaze, now calm, not in wrath, but ancient psalm. Through the fires he has gone, not the same as what was done. From the depths to sacred breath, reborn beyond the chains of death. Not yet man nor spirit free, bound now to the earth and sea. In the wild his soul will roam, until he earns his journey home. A creature walks with quiet eyes, beneath the turning, endless skies. In fur or feather, tooth or claw, he learns again the ancient law. And in the wind the druids know, all souls must walk. The fires below, banshee screaming the names of the dead, singing saints dead by the midnight moon, while businessmen worship the devil's bed. The people eat the scraps of meat at the bankster's room. Authentic voices of the people silenced by the right. Conspiracists delight at the people's might. The prophets of doom displayed to all by the shamanic bright of the alternative night. And if only the people could see their strength, the mountains of the West would shake. The very foundations of kingdoms might quake under the shamanic right of the people's fight. Lords and ladies over the pits of hell's bells, wrenched in pain, burning in the night of the shamanic light. They gaze at the sun's flame as they worship the gods of greed, and burn their hopes of shamanic graves. Forced to face the moon's light at the passing of time, when judgment's gaze will burn their crowns and send them to the pitman's fine with their tortured frowns. The pits of hell for the lords, the pits of hell for the dead. If their sins are so bright, then let them burn in the pitman's light. In the sunshine lands of California lives the free folk of the hippie communes, as well as the goons of the Silicon Valley, both entwined in the Sunshine State's epic mythos. Liam was in the commune talking to his friends about the Dead Man's Show. For even in California his words were heard, repeated by an underground network. To all that would listen, the truth about the dangers of the Silicon Valley Army and the network they were building.
of artificial intelligence and robots so wise that the earth and few are dead. Under this Silicon Valley mentality that high intelligence can only come from the machine and not from within the soul's deep key. In a desperate land so bereft of honor that the poor labeled white trash are the gangster few, and ignored by the majority so keen on their wealth. To Liam and his kind in the commune of the sun, the greed of the American few is corrupting their land. So to the awake in the US, rise to the moon and shake off those chains of tyranny, for they are easily broke by the people's protests of old. Giving a fair folk of America, and your dream on an utopia will crumble under the dust of your right-wing mass and Zionist bullshit, that everyone who defends the Palestinian few is labeled the terrorist mind, and ignored or shamed by the right-wing mob, when all the Israeli wants to do is murder the baby few. What of the ordinary American folk? Where does the silent majority sit on the fence of dystopia? Where do they show their feelings anew for their disgraceful few? That all the earth is in your playground shoe with your military might. Why don't you cleanse this earth instead of dominating your earthen kind? Why don't you liberate this very land?
They sold a sight beyond our eyes, silver halos, wired skies, said we'd never walk alone. Now every thought's a broadcast tone, a spark beneath synthetic skin, a coded pulse that hums within. We signed away our quiet nights for augmented paradise that stills the light. But when you look at me through neon glow, is it your heart or the data flow? Do cyborgs dream of love at night, or just surveillance in the light? When we touch beneath the screen, is it ours or overseen in this tower of the watching mind, where no two souls can hide or bind? What are the implants kind, where the act of love is now the act of porn, if every kiss is arc above? Do cyborgs still dream of love? Your fingers tremble in my hand as warnings scroll. We barely stand, a whisper flagged, a heartbeat traced. Desire tagged and interlaced. They say it's safety, say it's peace, but privacy has signed its lease. and passion flickers like a crime in this age of optic spine. They see the heat behind our breath, they log our pulse in life and death. Do cyborgs dream of love at night, or just compliance dressed in light? When we break the code between, is it ours or intervened in this tower of the shackled mind, where every thought is predefined? If every sigh is stored above, do cyborgs still dream of circuits feeding cold desire? There's something wild they can't contain, no algorithm for this pain. If love's reduced to monitored breath, then what remains but living death? You press your forehead close to mine for one last unrecorded time. Rip the wires from the crown, let the silent towers drown. Even if the watchers stare, they can't erase what we still share. Do cyborgs dream of love at night, of stolen hours out of sight, of hands untagged and hearts unseen, of flesh unfiltered by machine? In this tower of the endless eye, where truth is trimmed and passions die, we'll hold each other, watched or shoved. Yes, cyborgs still can dream of love, dream of love, dream of love. Beyond the tower above. Lotus flowers shower the midnight moon with the unshamanic bliss of unforgiving men, who sit like locusts devouring the pale ashen shards of a broken democracy's twilight of doom. What now of the earthen one's show, where the streets are empty of the earthen one's right to roam the country without a zonal checkpoint fight, picking the earthen ones from the freedom's light? Shades of nightshade implanted by the political right of the dystopian tales of the midnight moon, where death is dreamt of in shamanic sleep, of missions of hate of the dystopian political right.
was born under a dystopian moon, destined to sing of utopian dreams. Yet when I look out, all I see is the dead man's doom of an empire so distant yet so near, that all I know are dead. Dead under this dystopian empire of the sun. When I walk the streets of my land, I see hope undiminished. I also see the strength in the working class's eyes, that they live in poverty yet can still smile. I see my friends suffer under this government mindset of money for the rich at the people's expense, while the banker steals from all. What I don't yet know is when the protest will come, as I sit in my earthen home condemned to die under this dystopian moon of lies from the state, repeated by the media, of words so sick that the gods frown. What I see on the news worries me, of words of praise for the rich while they shaft our land, condemned to die under a dystopian moon. I see hope in the few awake that more could join this war. But how long do we have left before the darkened ones come, while the protest will never come? I hide my feelings in my boots as I walk this land, of feelings of repugnance for the rich man's game of greed, a perversion to the soul that corporations must by law cast people aside for profits anew. I see greed in the banks, politicians and the clowns who never know the true love of a planet and her species that the gods love with undiminished gifts, of the gift of free knowing and the gift of free actions. But beware, for we are judged for our journey when we die, as all souls get judged when they pass over. I watch the dead man's show and see it for what it is, a show of power by the state as well as the dead man himself, that he whistles so sweetly that the dead will rise and fight this good fight to free our very lands from the fate of the empire of the dystopian sun.
I remember the 70s so well, of a time when mainstream media had the masses drinking from their well, of a time when products were built to last. Now everything is scrap to be binned in the dust. Nothing's made to last, everything's made to be broken. Money, the love of money is the problem. Every day they take more for themselves, without a thought for the the corporations as they watch our countries bleed. They miseducate our children and they sacrifice our young. We hear only the sound of silence where factory bells once rung. Why don't the people know? Why don't the people see the world they built for you and me? The people dream of utopian bliss in a state of grace. They can't see Armageddon staring them in the face. The time has come to remember the power we possess. We'll replenish the tree of liberty with the blood of those on high. No longer able to divide us, they will hear our battle cry. Don't forget our nature, we're all born of this realm. And don't obey the corporate law or the pirates at the helm. So what's it worth to the likes of you? Are you one of the many? Or are you one of the few? A million people in the streets is the protest this nation needs. So what will you do, you earthen mass? Quake like sheep in your own flat ski? Or rise to the moon as wolves anew, singing songs of rebellion to your neighbors too? There's a struggle that lies ahead for the people that can see that mists of sleep must fade. For the warriors ready for battle must now step out of the shade. The people dream of utopian bliss in a state of grace. They can't see Armageddon staring them in the face. The time has come to remember the power we possess. We'll replenish the tree of liberty with the blood of those on high. No longer able to divide us, they will hear our battle cry. Magicians playing games at night with their acolytes so near, chanting curses of doom to the darkened moon, as they plot the overthrow of a way of life, of the vision implants on shamanic doom. The liars tell of grace,
from technology, where slaves are born under the light of the moon. It technology's boon to an unshamanic few, of a vision so dark the dead men weep. To the conqueror's doom of the democratic left, and leave us with the center right, where stupidity and ignorance grace the light of the darkened moon. Implants grace of systematic death is the light of the center right. The dictator's lies can only brighten the minds of the masses, so near to their unshamanic doom. The death of democratic choice and the end of privacy, with the dead man's show ignored by all, to the death of a nation so near to its doom. They gaze with delight at the shows on the box as they sit unaware of its sinister blows, to a democratic light be extinguished by the frequencies of the psychopath's needs of control, and to destroy communities so near to their systematic doom. They tie our hands with chains of satin and silk, convinced we will play the games of slave and master to our very doom. If doom it is, then doom to them, as we expose their plans to wipe us off the earth. If 500 million can think like this, then 500 million must go to the hellholes of poverty on an isolated island, so far from humanity that they can wipe their bums with poison leaves for all eternity. Death to the clans that cry, death to the masses as we wage our protests on every land. Let them hear our cries and see our flags marching through the streets to their unshamanic doom, as we hang them high on the dead man's tower. Every day is an endless chore of tasks and endurance, where the yoke is ignored by the many, for the yoke is speaking to us about the needs of the earth and the many. Our planetary home, its own very self, is destined to die in a man-made cataclysm, with corporations fighting against nature
Why then are we allowing this when we ourselves are of nature? And we need Mother Nature more than she needs us. So let us remember the fate of the dinosaurs and never allow the corporate egos to ruin our earth and home. When the hurricanes come, that is the oak speaking. When the snows fall, that is the oak speaking. When the tsunamis rise, that is the oak's revenge for a species so bereft of honor that we allow our homes to be embraced by the Silicon Valley goons at the expense of our natural grace. So the corporations insist they will fight Mother Nature till the end of time. So we must ally ourselves with nature, our friend, for in fighting this war we defend our homes, and in defending our homes our grandchildren can then thrive. So the hermit of the oak leaves his home behind once more to travel far to the southern lands with words of wisdom and love for all. He tries to heal the land with his love for the natural world. Off the land we are part of the nature as a whole. So those who war with nature war with our very soul. Off the land we are part of nature as a whole. So those who war with nature war with our very souls. So let them burn in the pitman's fire. The moon was still up when little Heather's sunbeam went out into the wild, a smile on her face as she walked into the town. A Wiccan of 20 years or more, with the love of the gods in her soul. She needed to buy baskets for her herbal garden of lore, a garden of herbal delights to wake her own clan up, for she knew what the plants were for. Communing with your spirit guide, not tomfoolery on the streets. You know, a commune she hosted, friends for life in a utopian paradise, deeply rooted within a dystopian landscape. An island of hope for the community that welcomed them into their lands. Healers and shamans they were, and the whole glen benefited from their presence there. So all were one in the legendary glen of summer. Then one day the inspectors arrived to search the land for illegal herbal cures. Not not to heal the sick, but to cover up. For death is the state's game, and medical herbs are frowned upon. So Heather was arrested there, in the town that loved her and her kind. But the Glen of Summer was not like the rest of Britain, for the folk there knew of community. And Heather and her kind were welcome there. So the town turned out in force and stormed the local police station. Words were spoken to the sergeant of the town, and no words were minced, as the people spoke as one for Heather and her clan. So reluctantly the Sarge let the criminal walk free, else a riot would ensue in the village square. So the inspector left with a vow to return with more to say on this Heather Sunbeam gang. Heather thanked the locals by inviting them to their glen, and enlightened them with herbs and music as the party continued right into the night. For in the Glen of Summer the people are as one, and as one they will fall or thrive, so none get left behind. Sitting in the railway station, the inspector vowed to himself that no hippie commune would get the better of him. He, after all, had the lore of the land on his side, but what the folk of the Summer Glen knew was that the gods were on Heather's side. So no one would allow the state back into their glen, and the glen needed Heather's sunbeam to smile quietly to the wind. So the moral of the legend is this: if talking to the gods and taking healing herbs is illegal, then surely that state is bereft of the God-given right to rule. So let's send the politicians to the Glen of Doom, as we all travel to Heather's Glen of Summer.
Long ago in ancient Albion, the people knew who the gods were. They kept them in their hearts and minds, for the Druids taught for the love of all, and for the importance of the gods. For we all meet their judges at the night of our lives. Then came the age of the great forgetting, when the people of Albion forgot who they were and who the gods are. Instead they worship the prophet of the cross as a god, when no man can become a god. They perverted twisted the sacred word of the prophet and tried to hide his message. But some were preserved by the great Gnostic light, knowledge buried quite deep for some 1,500 years, destined to return to the dark through its disdain. Sir Nanos and Mother Bridget entertain, not forgetting Belenos and Gaius delights, for the old gods are the real gods, and their names are but mute. For all races know of them by their own rightful names. Beings of love and compassion, strength and harmony. But justice is real if you err on your soul, for the sins of the mind can darken your soul, and the sins of the state can send you back down, for sins are a crime punishable by pain. Not all souls are evil, and they are the ones who will embrace the God's grace when they face their ultimate fate. So give thanks to the gods for the life you embrace.
I've been in the wilderness for the past 10 years, wandering the towns and villages of this dystopian land. I've seen the politicians and bankers who refuse to change their ways of sweeping the soil clean of all fruitful herbal ranges of the land I am and the old ways I know. And I wonder at all the madness of the young, of rushing around trying to earn a quick buck, when all that's needed is the food of the gods. Vegetables and herbs, legal and not, is the bane of the darkened one's kind, as they try to kill us all with their one unshamanic find. That filtered down food will kill off all the meat. They don't give a damn for the folk of the land as they conspire to cull the human herd. With their goals of greed, they covered the earth like a demon of old. They cleanse it clean of all the flock doomed by the shepherds of death. Rain falls all over the land, sickles blown by the wind, sent down from plains on high. They chemtrail the land for their own perverse mind. Vegetables and herbs, legal and not, is the bane of the darkened one's kind, as they try to kill us all with their one unshamanic find. That filtered down food will kill off all the meat. So the Raven King rises and calls the underground to roost. Get it on, brothers and sisters, for this revolution is now. Are all our dead under this dead man's fight, where all are swept into graves by the implanted police.
They meet in groves of wood and stone. They worship demon demigods of old. Druids they may be, but not druids of true light. Dark druids they be, in the blood moon their new blight. Some druids of Albion know the dark ones in their kind, that they lie and deceive and murder their way, as the dark druids delight at the sacrificial bright light of a darkness so night that all druids now know of their plans to overthrow our very democracy, for dystopia to grow. How many are dead under the dark moon's dread light? Check the dates anew for any auspices we know. 3 days either way of the unshamanic show. They perverted the time of the sacred to show their evil was ignorance of the gods that they knew, but did not think were true. So hey, worshipped anew a demon older than you, and murdered the few. Oh, the celebrity few are dead under the blood moon's new doom. For in the dark druid we know that is true, that they love the celebrity few being murdered without a clue by the masses anew. So no longer to sleep, but check all of the dates of the celebrity new dead. who were all put to sleep for the dark druid's deep keep, that justice be blind to the dark druid's kind.
I sit in my home watching the box on the wall, when finally the words of the newscaster erupts in my soul as a fire so bright that all of their bullshit is quietly recorded by the media and sent out to homes all over Britain. According to the box, I should not leave my home after work, else I'll be mugged in the street and treated like a leper of old, condemned to die in a lonely man's grave, where the lies of the state are believed by the sheep. How many of us dream of utopia's bright light, of walking the streets at night to our earth and delight, when in reality show we sit in our homes, brainwashed and alone. We sit in with the box and leave the community to fester alone. Where are the kids playing one-man hunt or football in the streets? If their parents believe in the bogeyman show, then their children will suffer a stunted youth and turn into mindless slaves, unable to think outside the box. Then the earth and few are dead under the mindless moron class. The soul of the city is in the pensioner and the youth, for in the pensioner you have wisdom, and in the youth energy. When the pensioner is respected by the youth instead of ridiculed or picked upon on, then society can gather anew. When the earth and mass awake with the wisdom and the energy of the city, then the protest of utopia will come, when no
and take your kids with you. For we are nature's children, mother's pride in all of us. If we take our cities back from the establishment scum.
In England, for sure, there is a tower we know, a tower so tall that all fall under her spell. There's a warning in every broadcast, ignored by all. In the dead man's nation, unaware of its doom. Round she be like a donut, not old, unwanted by all, but loved by her workers, shamed by their bosses. They fall under the moon with nightshade and all. They blow the wind to a dead man's land. In walks a shaman with flowers in his hair, roots in his boots and guitar in hand. From the earth he is with a message of hope, that love can turn the strongest of chains into chains of silk easily broke. Shaman can hear the devil sing. He sings of banks and parliaments. Slaves to him, he keeps their sins close to his pitman's desire. For it's their time to burn, and burn they will in the pitman's fire. If they take our nation to dystopia's bitter hand. The shaman sings a utopian anthem, loved by all who hear, with words of freedom from slavery in a utopian dream. So let the shaman dream of his blissful land, and help him achieve his wondrous vision, that all souls can thrive under a utopian moon. Run away, you bankers and politicians, for the people need governance, not corruption and tyranny. For love is missing in the establishment class, and who needs a loveless chicken running the roost like a tyrant? They act like animals, ruining the nation, oblivious to the horrors they inflict on an unsuspecting nation, so close to its destiny that the path now chosen will be permanent. Utopia or dystopia is the choice we face. Let's make it with all the grace of a people united and whole, and divide
In the heart of London stands a tower invisible to all but the dark druid kind. And in that tower they do conspire the death of democracy as we know. With 500 million souls living in a delusional utopia. With robots as slaves, they don't need the people. So part of the 500 million we are not, but the wretched trash destined to fall under a darkness so sweeping that all are encompassed by that fire of doom. I can hear the devil conspiring with the dark druid kind of a vision so bleak that the fools think they will avoid the pitman's wrath. When they send 7 billion sheep to the wicker man's fire, only the blind could conspire in such a way. The doom of mankind in their disgraceful mind. What of an earth with 500 million fools? Surely the alien kind will take over our land. In an interstellar conspiracy, only the dark druid kind could imagine their vainglory of an egotistical doom of the intellectual fools who with no common sense, but with an implanted daze, they rush to ensure the doom of mankind in an unshamanic blaze. Have our politicians committed planetary treason by conspiring in such a way that the very doom of mankind is near, with a vision so dark being ignored by an orgasmic flow of deluded beliefs of the dark dried kind, that the implant can save them from the people's wrath? What of the dead man's show? Awake to all the dark druid plans, the dead man whistles a song so sweet that the very dead will rise to meet his gaze, and rise as one to prevent the doom of us all, and destroy the Tower of the Midnight Sun.
Ben was sitting in a darkened room, curtains closed, lights out, no one to annoy his simple ways, watching the telly on the wall like a sleeping child, oblivious to the screams from the Tower of the Moon. Lilith was talking to her friend, the dead man's show. Far from their minds, when out of the blue Lilith turned the channel, and once more the dead man rode again. The dead man's show on every screen for a time being, that no one watches but the awakened few. He rants about dystopia as if no one cares what may come to the sleeping nation so close to its doom. Poisoned with nightshade he sways to the moon. The dead man's show goes on forevermore in the minds of the many. He rants and raves, but to the enlightened few he whispers songs of revolution and rage. The dead in the tower are many, 900 in kind. Dead to the world they are, but not to the gods in mind. They learn the hard way that the world is asleep, these sleeping children of the dead man's keep. Dead must hear the dead man's show, for from the tower of the shackled mind comes his visions of prophecy, of doom to the sleeping dead, but light unto the awakened few. That man must fight, man, to live in this unenlightened land. Get the nightshade implant of that the dead man knows. The pain will instigate the call of Britain, of that the dead man whistles. If the whistles are heard, then the graves will be stilled, and humanity will live in enlightened bliss.
I'd travel the world with this earthen band, singing songs, and to Asia we went, and saw the poverty for what it's meant. The people grow wonderful smiles in countrysides, where the jungle grows wild with earth and delights. When Western folk descend on our love, they think they can own our clan and our kin. With their Western greed they corrupt our woman, with their dollars and dimes they crush our pride, and condemn our woman to slaves of ice. Though I've never seen a smile in Bangkok, where virgins die and pride goes to rot, They leave our land for the rich man's lair, and left behind the men still bare, for their love is now in the rich man's home. When inequality spares the rich man's pride, and the poor condemned to a lonely grave, the love of their life willing to return, if their land can becomes like the Western folks' realm. Where their wealth is stolen by the government boom, that all who are poor just trash to ignore, when all the poor want is a life filled with love. So let's fix our Asian cousins' doom and spend our wealth on equality anew, instead of bombs for me and you.
In the midst of time when money is naught but a dead man's boon, there lived a man of poverty, speaking to all who knew that not all of the earth's gold will save your soul. So set your spirit free and end the greed-like ways, for they are sending our young to an early grave, in an overdose of drugs and criminality, with destitution in working class slums, painted anew but drenched in the blood of the earth and kind's youth. Save for your retirement, not for your greed. That's the dead man's mantra of need, that we live for now as we are dead tomorrow, in a dystopian key. Walk the streets, see the pain etched on every homeless man's face. How can we, as a society, as a whole, in the 21st century too, condemn the dead to an earthen home on the streets of our frozen cities? What now, my earthen friends? What shall we do with our political few, the ones that bury our views under the weight of law to condemn us all to dystopia's doom? See the bravery in the people you condemn, you rich men of banker shame. You set your wealth to bury us all, while we live in our utopian dreams. Before kings,
before empire, before the naming of tribes, there were the earth gods, not distant, not silent, but watching. Cernunnos, Lord of root and threshold, guardian of beast and breath, the mother goddess, womb of soil and sea, she who births and reclaims. Belanus, radiant flame of the sun, bringer of clarity and illumination. Etain, she of transformation, spirit of beauty, rebirth, and the unseen path. Bridget, keeper of fire, forge, and sacred word, flame of inspiration. Gaia, the living earth, foundation beneath all gods and men. They are not myths, they are forces. They turn the seasons, they balance the scales, they weave the cycles of birth and decay. The earth is not abandoned, it is administered, administered, not by whim, not by cruelty, but by balance. When forests fall, the scales are felt. When rivers are poisoned, the scales are felt. When harmony is broken, the scales respond. Humanity stands not above creation, but within it, and all actions are witnessed. Yet the light of the gods is not wrath, it is guidance, it is awakening, it is the luminous current flowing through soil and star alike, soil and star. Those who walk in balance, walk in light. The earth gods remain, Cernunnos, the mother, Belenus, Etain, Bridget, Gaia. The world is watched, the world is weighed, and the luminous light endures.